Hi, I'm Ben Ferguson, and welcome to your AMAC Weekly News. First up, the President's State of the Union speech was one for the record books, from presenting the Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh to honoring a 100-year-old Tuskegee Airman. Every American should have walked away feeling very proud of this country. Somehow, the liberals tried to ruin the night, and we have the video to prove it in just a moment. Up next, it's not just impeachment that the liberals cannot get right. It appears they also don't know how to properly count Iowa caucus votes, but they want to run your life and the government. Find out how this went terribly wrong for them in just a moment. And finally, one day after his historic State of the Union address, the president also was freed from the impeachment coup attempt. Now, it doesn't matter how much evidence has been presented because liberals say that this is, well, still not really an acquittal for the president. All of that and more in just a moment. Quick reminder, please make sure you share this video with your family and friends on social media. Your AMAC Weekly News starts right now. By all accounts, the President's State of the Union address was a huge success. The President focused on the incredible growth in our country, and not once did he even mention or hint at the I word. What he did discuss were issues that help the American people, something the Democrats should learn to do instead of attempting a coup. Now, Donald Trump focused on the blue-collar boom, supporting and promoting working families, lowering the cost of health care for American families, and a safe and legal immigration system, as well as protecting America's national security. Now, the speech started with a bang when the president missed an attempted handshake from Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And then the media reacted. Take a look. Now look, whether the president meant to or not, it was absolutely warranted considering the coup attempt on his presidency and delaying the acquittal vote on purpose to come after the State of the Union speech. And for the liberal media who have obsessed over this moment, please spare me the fake outrage. President Trump didn't shake hands with Vice President Pence either, so we can only assume that he just wasn't expecting it or didn't see it. Now, President Trump's guests proved to be even more powerful than his already amazing record of accomplishments for the American people. We saw a warfighter reunited with his family after his fourth deployment to Afghanistan, an academic scholarship being awarded to a needy family, and the introduction of a 100-year-old surviving member of the Tuskegee Airmen. But the part that probably brought some of the most tears was when he also awarded Rush Limbaugh the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now, Limbaugh just announced that he has received a stage 4 advanced cancer diagnosis, making this moment even more emotional. Take a look at this from C-SPAN.
And Rush, in recognition of all that you have done for our nation, the millions of people a day that you speak to and that you inspire, and all of the incredible work that you have done for charity, I am proud to announce tonight that you will be receiving our country's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I will now ask the First Lady of the United States to present you with the honor, please.
Now, the entire State of the Union speech was concluded not with the excitement and pride for our country that was warranted. Instead, the focus is on the terrible and completely childlike action by the Speaker of the House. Yes, she did take that speech and rip it up, and we have the video to prove it.
God bless America. Thank you very much.
Now, I want you to think about what Nancy Pelosi just ripped up. In that speech, the president honored a 100-year-old Tuskegee Airman, honored parents whose daughter was killed by terrorists, honored a mother who lost her military spouse, and reunited a military dad with his sobbing family. After all of that, she thought it was appropriate to rip up the speech in front of the entire nation. When asked why she decided to act in such a horrific manner, this is what she had to say. Take a look at this from the Daily Wire.
Why did you rip the speech up, Madam Speaker?
Because it was the courteous thing to do, considering the alternatives.
If there's any moment that shows the genuine hatred towards this president by everyone on the left, well, it's perfect that it came from the leader of the Democratic Party. These are the same people that wouldn't clap for the historic low minority unemployment numbers. They won't clap for a young schoolgirl receiving an actual scholarship. They won't clap for American job creation. And they won't clap for American energy independence. What we saw was a party that won't clap for major successes for our country that helped the American people. They won't even stand and clap for the Tuskegee Airman, Charles McGee. This is why we have to fight even harder to protect our country and our Constitution, and most importantly, our president that they just tried to overthrow. It was a really interesting week when you saw what happened in Iowa. The same people who want to control our health care and our government have proven that they cannot even run a basic caucus in Iowa. The 2020 Democratic Iowa caucus ended in a complete disaster as technical breakdowns were reported to cause the massive delay in the reporting of basic results of the people. Now, let's just take a look at the montage of what happened in Iowa and how this ended in the DNC chairman, Tom Perez, being declared the loser in all of this.
In less than 100 days, as you know, until the most transparent, successful, accessible caucus in the history of the great state of Iowa.
Problems with the reporting process in last night's caucuses means there are no official results from Iowa to report. Nothing.
You've seen some dumpster fires in your lifetime. Where does this rank?
This is pretty high. We're talking about a lot of embarrassing things that happened last night.
What we have this morning so far is chaos.
I mean, it's chaos.
If an impeachment trial is unfolding right around the same time, the caucuses, the debates, what are you going to do?
Democrats and our senators can walk and chew gum. We can walk and chew gum at the DNC. We must, as Democrats, walk and chew gum, and that's exactly what we're doing. The energy is off the charts. We'll have record turnout in Iowa. We're organizing everywhere. We're investing everywhere.
And they're failing. They're failing at literally the one job that they had, which is count the votes.
Yeah. Well, this is a disaster.
This is an unmitigated disaster.
It's a disaster.
The Biden campaign ripping the Iowa Democratic Party.
This is the death knell. If it's not the death knell, somebody should get fired.
So we got to get Tom Perez in here and beat him up a little bit because it was amateur. It was a little league operation tonight.
It's staggeringly embarrassing and really unacceptable for the Democratic Party.
You can get an Uber X in Des Moines tonight in about 6 minutes. I can't give you the election results, though.
Your response to that?
Well, we can walk and chew gum. As I've said, walking and chewing gum. Let me assure you, Democrats know how to walk and chew gum.
Not only did the head of the Democratic Party, Perez, come out as a huge loser in all this, but really the entire Democratic Party. They can't even run a basic caucus, but they want to run your entire life and the entire government on top of that. Now, there's another side note that came out of all this, and that is that Joe Biden, well, his campaign is in serious trouble. Even without all of the results in, it was very clear that Joe Biden came up short in fourth place behind Mayor Pete, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. That means that Mayor Pete and Sanders will each get 10 delegates, and Warren will receive the other 4. Biden is going to be stuck with a big 0, coming out of a state where he spent a lot of money and a lot of time in. Now, the results being delayed didn't stop some of the candidates from coming forward and declaring victory. All of the candidates were claiming to be victorious, but apparently Mayor Pete's claims bothered Bernie Sanders the most. Take a look at this very irritated Bernie Sanders in an interview that aired on MSNBC.
What's your reaction, sir, to Mayor Buttigieg last night declaring victory?
I don't know how anybody declares victory before you have an official statement as to election results. So we're not declaring victory. But what we are saying is that at a time when the people of Iowa and the people of America really want to know what the results is, when they want to see some transparency, and when the Iowa Democratic Party is not providing that in a timely manner, we thought it was appropriate just to give the results.
So you got to ask yourself the question, why did this bother Bernie Sanders so much? I'll tell you why. Because it appears that Mayor Pete is actually beating him in Iowa by 1 percentage point, and he didn't like that. Now, with all of this mess, it's giving those who are against Iowa having the first caucus even more ammunition. One of the main reasons given to move another state into the #1 position is a supposed, quote, lack of diversity in the state. At least that's what Democrats are claiming. Now, one aspect officials are also trying to avoid about all of this is the fact that the Iowa Democratic Party actually declined the Department of Homeland Security's offer to help them test their election app prior to caucus day. Remember, this is the party that is trying to take complete control over everything, including your health care. If they can't handle a basic caucus that has been happening for generations, what makes them think that they can handle the important business of the country? Now, it's our job to stop them before they take America down with them. And AMAC is here to make sure that they do not gain control of the White House. It's finally over. For now, the president has officially been acquitted in the attempted coup that has wasted countless hours and millions of taxpayers' dollars that we're never going to get back. Now, the liberals tried to use any last-ditch efforts to try and make a case that would never stick. Lying Adam Schiff even went so far as to make up even more lies and claim the president would actually offer up Alaska to the Russians if he wasn't convicted. I'm not kidding. Take a look at this from Fox News.
If abuse of power is not impeachable, even though it is clear the founders considered it the highest of all high crimes and misdemeanors, but if it were not impeachable, then a whole range of utterly unacceptable conduct in a president would now be beyond reach. Trump could offer Alaska to the Russians in exchange for support in the next election, or decide to move to Mar-a-Lago permanently and let Jared Kushner run the country.
I have no idea where in the world that Adam Schiff came up with this load of Schiff. And yes, I said Schiff, as in his last name. The reason this even happened in the first place is because liberals are terrified that the president will again win in 2020. That's right. Liberals like Pelosi, Schiff, and Schumer don't believe the American people should have a choice in the next election. Instead, they want to literally take away your vote and take away the president so that you can't even vote for him in the next race. Now, liberals have now decided the new talking point is, even after Trump is acquitted, that it's not a real acquittal because the Senate did not call new witnesses. Well, if the Democrats wanted to call more witnesses, then they should have had a fair process in the House. This has been a rigged process from the very beginning, and this coup attempt just blew up in their faces. Now, remember, the president did not get a single witness in the entire sham process, nor did he get his constitutional right to face his accuser. Regardless, this is what liberals and the mainstream media are saying. Take a look at this montage.
If my Republican colleagues refuse to consider witnesses and documents in this trial, the president's acquittal will be meaningless.
Well, he will not be acquitted. You cannot be acquitted if you don't have a trial. And you don't have a trial if you don't have witnesses.
So we're going to have a trial with no witnesses? And I think Speaker Pelosi is right. Then this can't be a real acquittal.
They cannot walk out of this building and allege and assert that there has been a true acquittal. There will be no true acquittal if there is not a fair trial.
In fact, this trial is no vindication because it was really no trial, no witnesses.
But if we acquit this president in a sham trial with no witnesses, it sets a precedent. You can abuse your office and Congress will simply look the other way.
It will be illegitimate. It will have been a rush to judgment. In fact, it's a rush to a cover-up.
There will be a permanent asterisk next to the acquittal of President Trump written in permanent ink.
And Russia, if you're listening, 2020 is open for investigations.
He will be more likely to try to steal the 2020 election.
Elections may not have a fair result. The very charge goes to the fairness of our elections.
People around the world are watching us going, this is what you want for the rest of the world? I mean, what a sad, sad moment after 300 plus years of democracy.
I think it's a sad day for the so-called Republican Party. They're going to need to find their souls. Good luck to that.
He's saying, essentially, let's just say this was a court case. Yeah, he beat his wife. So?
This is going to be an enormous stain on the United States Senate.
And I fear very much that the president will see himself as one who can emulate that kind of monarchical power.
It's actually quite scary. I think we're at a very scary moment.
Did you notice what their sole focus was? They are only focused on destroying your vote in the 2020 election. They have made it known that they believe the president needs to be removed from office only to keep him from being reelected. Now, this coup has finally come to an end, but we can be sure it's never going to really be over. The Democrats have made it clear that even if Donald Trump gets reelected, they're going to try to impeach him yet again. And that is exactly why we need to stand by our president even more as the 2020 election approaches. It's also the reason why, if you haven't renewed or joined AMAC, we need you to do it so that we can fight for you and your voice and for your vote to be counted. That's it for this edition of your AMAC Weekly News. As I said, a quick reminder, if you haven't joined AMAC or renewed your AMAC membership, do it now so you have a voice in Washington that is fighting for you. We now have over 2 million members, and we are having great success in defending our freedoms from the left. I'm Ben Ferguson, and I'll see you back next week for our next episode.